Hey, this is Notser, and this is a look at the cruiser. So the cruiser is the backbone of your team, most played class, most universal. It provides fantastic anti-aircraft for your team, great damage per minute, and overall it can engage every target and have some success. So we are on the map hotspot, and my friendly carrier is about to be engaged by the enemy aircraft carrier. And first thing I try and do, pop my fighter. The fighter can provide DPS against a single squadron. It can provide a slow on that, much like full-scale squadron fighters. It can also cause dive bombers and torpedo bombers to be less accurate with their attacks. And what I like to do is I like to set my focus on the high-value target that has not dropped their payload yet. The game will default to attacking torpedo bombers, dive bombers, and fighters in that order, but it's important that you try and maximize your damage just that little bit much by switching your focus to squadrons that have yet to drop their payload. And we are wiping out all of these enemy squadrons before they even drop. Very little damage to the friendly carrier. The Cleveland is a fantastic AA platform. On all my cruisers, I try and get basic and advanced firing training to boost that AA even more. Because aircraft are very strong in this game, and anything you can do to help your team win is very important, and the cruiser is the AA platform. If you do nothing else for your team, make sure you're good at anti-aircraft, and you should have more success than not. So another important aspect of cruisers is the damage per minute they provide. They are the best in the game. You need to make use of this. That means having a target in mind for every single gun cooldown whenever possible. So we're about to engage a couple enemies. There's a general rule of thumb I like to go with. I like to select my target, have a good aim set on that target, but then I have to consider any enemy targets that are in the vicinity that will become the next target once I defeat my primary target. And what I like to do is I like to focus on destroyers first, then cruisers, then battleships. Destroyers are very easy to kill as a cruiser, both in the damage output you do, but also they maneuver a lot and you have a lot of cooldowns in comparison to a battleship, which can fire probably once every 30 seconds. You can fire once every 10 seconds on average, we'll say. And you do a lot of damage. Don't try and fire on a target that you cannot accurately hit, though. You need to take advantage of your damage per minute. If the target is angled or it's a difficult shot for you, you need to move on to a target that will help your team win. A lot of times, I see people, they'll keep AP loaded the whole time. They're not switching out of it. Or they'll fire at a destroyer the whole time, when there's an easy target for them to land their shots on. Now this Omaha is broadside, ideal AP scenario. He's pretty low, so I'm going to stick with HE. That's why I stick with HE. He's very low, and sometimes he'll angle to where AP will be ineffective. I don't need an ineffective shot, I just need to land my shots to kill him. Other scenarios, AP is very important in order to get an advantage in health pools. But in this scenario, when I'm attacking multiple enemies, it really is not important. What's important is I'm using my guns to land shots on these targets, taking out the enemy in the most efficient manner. Low health takes precedence over full health destroyers. The general rule that applies to every ship. But the cruiser, it's most important because you have such a fast reload. You have your guns available constantly. One of the important enemies that you will engage constantly are battleships. Battleships are a target that you want to use HE for 100% of the time. It's just good logic, especially at long range. You're not going to get a really good shot to penetrate their armor if they're angled If you have a low caliber gun like the Cleveland, you really just need to land HE rounds on the superstructure of the target. For battleships and cruisers, there are 4 positions that can catch on fire. Each position does an average of 250 damage to the battleship every second. And these dots obviously stack. And as a cruiser, you have the rate of fire that you can spread the damage around the ship. And that's what you should try to do. Once you get comfortable aiming on the target, you can slightly adjust left to right, up and down, where your elevation and your gun depression, your traverse, in order to spread that fire. Because that fire dot is a killer when they don't have their damage control or it's on cooldown. Like this Wyoming. I initially set him on fire. I was able to put him in a position where he had to use damage control, and then now we have set him on fire again, and you can see how much he's burning for. He's burning for 1,000 a second. So 250 times 4. That's Fire 101, HE, battleships. They're slow, they're big, they're easy to hit. Using these techniques to spread the fire and keeping your ship angled will give you an advantage over the enemy battleship, and you should find a lot of success. So the AP round, when should I use it? You should use it against cruisers that are broadside with you. If it is a harsh angle or a battleship or a destroyer, don't bother using AP. It's going to be ineffective. HE is just as successful as AP. And against this Atago, I really want to catch him at the waterline, angling his side, so I can penetrate his armor. You don't want to hit the superstructure, you want to hit the hull at the waterline. That's really where you want these rounds to go. And you can see how ineffective they are. They are penetrating, but they're not doing what I want until I get that shot. We also took out his propulsion, and as you get closer to an enemy, you have a higher chance of success, obviously. And I'm going to take a torpedo, but I'm going to get a waterline shot at a cruiser at close range, and we get a lot of Citadel. And we need to kill him at this point, right? This is a race. Who can reload faster with accurate fire? And again, waterline, and you can see, very devastating. But yeah, that's my ideal AP scenario. Enemy cruisers that are broadside with you. If they're angled, or a battleship, or a destroyer, I just stick with HE. Very effective. So, one final thing is the torpedo system. Japanese cruisers make use of this. A couple things about the Japanese cruiser torpedo system. It is a back-launching torpedo system. So, you need to angle the back half of the ship towards the target in order to even launch the torpedoes. This is obvious to anyone who sees you launching, so whenever you do this, the player is going to realize that danger is imminent and he should maneuver. By default, Japanese cruisers cannot outrange their torpedoes. You are detected unless you take advantage of islands of smoke or close range in order to have successful torpedo strikes. A concealment spec commander, coupled with a couple Japanese cruisers, could theoretically outrange the torpedoes and attack from stealth. But as you can see, the torpedoes do a lot of damage, and they're great for taking out battleships that move slow. If you make use of your Japanese torpedoes, you can do a lot of burst damage to level the playing field when going up against big battleships. So overall, fantastic AA platform. Put defensive fire in place of hydroacoustic. It's just not good enough to keep the hydroacoustic. Try and make sure that you go after destroyers, cruisers, and battleships in that order whenever possible, so you can take out the enemy in the most optimized manner. And try and set your AA focus targets on enemies that have yet to drop their payload, and swap it whenever necessary in order to maximize the defensive capabilities that you can provide your team. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.